So, today we're going to dig into this really powerful way of thinking about life's biggest problems, and it's all inspired by the ancient story of Jonah. We're going to use this story as a metaphor to uncover those hidden problems, the Jonahs, that might just be secretly sinking your ship. You know that feeling, right? When you're caught in a storm, some kind of crisis that just seems to come out of nowhere and threatens to capsize everything. Well, today, we're going to break down a method for finding the true source of that turmoil so you can finally get back to calm waters. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to be on the same page with the central metaphor from our source material. I want you to imagine your life, your whole life, your career, family, your personal journey. Imagine it's a ship sailing on the sea, and you're the captain. But what happens when that ship, your ship, sails right into a mighty tempest? A problem so huge, so overwhelming, it literally feels like the whole thing is about to break apart. Yeah, we're not talking about a little bump in the road here. This storm is a major life crisis. We're talking about financial ruin, a sudden, scary illness, a family conflict that tears you apart. The source material tells us that these storms, they're going to happen. That's life. The real test is how we navigate them. So, how do we usually react when a storm like that hits? Well, our first instincts are often pretty clever and definitely frantic, but they usually miss the point entirely. The source describes this really common but kind of flawed pattern we all fall into. First, we try to think our way out of it. We're like those sailors in the story, throwing valuable cargo overboard to try and lighten the ship. We waste our time, our money, our energy on all these surface-level fixes that don't actually get to the heart of the problem. And this right here, this slide breaks it down perfectly. Our usual human effort, it's all about managing the symptoms. The source compares it to putting a little Band-Aid on a deep infection. Sure, it might give you some temporary relief, but you're just wasting resources because you never touch the root cause. A true spiritual inquiry, though, that goes way deeper to find a real, lasting solution. So what happens when all that frantic effort just fails? When you've thrown everything overboard and the storm is still raging? Well, the sailors in the story, they completely change their approach.
This right here, this is the turning point. It's an absolute game changer. They stop looking for solutions outside the ship and they start looking for the cause inside it. They start asking the hard questions, looking into every single corner of their lives.
And that's what Jonah represents in this metaphor. He is the hidden root problem. He's the thing that's been lurking just out of sight, fast asleep, causing all the chaos. Your Jonah could be anything: a destructive habit, a toxic relationship, maybe a compromise you made a long time ago that you've been trying to ignore. You know, it's a fascinating idea, right? The source suggests that a crisis isn't always just a crisis. Sometimes that hardship is exactly what's needed to expose the problem that was just lying there, quiet and dormant when the seas were calm. The storm forces the hidden issue to come to the surface. Okay, so this brings us to what is easily the most difficult part of this whole journey. Because once you've found your Jonah, the solution, well, it's not simple. It comes with a condition. Finding the roots of the problem, that's one thing. But actually fixing it, that takes decisive action. It's like the solution isn't passive. It demands something from us. It comes with terms and conditions. And here it is, the big one. Jonah himself says it: throw me overboard. To save the ship, the source of the problem has to be removed. And that means you have to be willing to get rid of the very thing that's causing the storm, no matter how attached to it you might be. And man, this sacrifice can be incredibly painful. The source describes this problem as an evil seed that's planted deep in our hearts, and its roots are all tangled up with something we hold dear. You know, it could mean cutting ties with a friend, or maybe even a family member whose influence is sinking your ship. It's hard. Now, to really bring this home, the source material gives us this incredibly powerful real-life story that just maps onto this framework perfectly. It's about a man who, well, he became the Jonah on his family's ship. After a ritual he was involved in backfired and left him paralyzed. He tried everything, doctors, local healers, but his condition just got worse and worse. He was the Jonah in his family's ship. His life and the choices he'd made had become the hidden problem causing their storm. And his passing, though it was tragic, It became the sacrifice that finally allowed the family to change course, to find a new direction, and to finally calm their seas.
So, after all that, after this incredibly difficult but necessary sacrifice, what's the result? What happens?
The resolution is immediate, and it's complete. The very moment Jonah is removed from that ship, the raging sea becomes totally calm. By finally dealing with the root cause, all of the chaos just vanishes, and peace is restored. All right, so let's just boil this all down. What are the key takeaways here? First, that a crisis in your life can actually be a diagnostic tool. It's there to show you the hidden problems. It forces us to stop trying all the superficial fixes and to look inward for the real cause. And ultimately, the path back to peace often demands a really difficult choice, having the courage to remove that Jonah from our lives. And that really leaves us with this one big, challenging question to think about in your own life. The next time a storm hits and the waters start to stir, are you going to keep wasting your energy just throwing cargo overboard? Or will you have the courage to search the ship, find your Jonah, and make the sacrifice that brings true, lasting calm?